Good evening. We are going to give you a brief introduction about definition, concept, and uh, importance of plant diseases. This is this is the first lecture. We had a discussion on this lecture in uh, previous meeting, and again I am showing you the PowerPoint presentation of the same. And the next why it is important to study the disease because they cause losses uh, to produce of various crops and losses in terms of uh, uh, cereals or pulses or vegetables either in the field or during storage, and the diseases they cause the losses between the sowing of the crop to the harvesting and then the consumption of those produced by the human being, and therefore the disease are responsible for direct monetary loss and material loss. Then how we can define it? Disease is the injurious alteration or injurious changes, maybe one or more changes in the physiological process of the plants in the system or the plants, and that is caused by the continuous irritation by the pathogen. Disease can also be defined as the continuously disturbance of the host plant by some causal agent that results in an abnormal physiological process and that disrupts the plant's normal structure, growth, function, or other activities, including plant yield. You may get several definitions of the disease. I'm not going to elaborate all the definitions, but there are certain definitions uh, which are being, given by the scientists who were of in different time period, and they had defined the disease in different forms. Simple, we can also say that plant disease and impairment of the normal state of the plant that interrupts or modifies its vital function. And then in 1958, Julius Kuhn in Germany, he had defined plant disease in his terms. Then several other scientists like Stackman and Harrer in 1957, they also defined the disease in their own philosophical manner, which you can see in the PowerPoint presentation. And Horsfall and Diamond, it is the most acceptable and accepted definition of the disease. That disease can be defined as the physiological disorder or a structure abnormality that is deleterious or harmful to the plants or its part or product that reduces its economic value. Disease can be defined as the result of interaction between host pathogen and environment is the most appropriate definition of plant disease. Several other uh, scientists had given the definition of plant disease. Now, how the disease occurs, how the pathogens they affect the plants. There are so many ways. Either they utilize the cell contents of the host, or sometimes they kill the host by interfering with the metabolic process through producing the enzymes and toxins by the pathogens, and they're killing the host. Or sometimes the pathogens, what they do, they continuously weakening the host due to continuous taking the nutrients, losses of nutrients from the host plant. Or sometimes the pathogens, they do also interfere with the translocation of the food, minerals, water, etc. So these are the effects. And what pathogens can do, what they do when they attack on the plant disease, attack on the plants, and then they cause the symptoms. So what they can do, they can suppress the chlorophyll content, they can reduce the leaf area, they can interrupt the movement of nutrients, raw materials, water from the root to the stems and sometimes to the leaves. They also reduce the water absorbing capacity of the roots. How they reduce the water absorbing capacity by causing the symptoms on the roots in the form of like rotting or like formation of nodules and so many knots. In different ways, they they reduce the water absorbing capacity. They also suppress the translocation of photosynthetic way from the leaves. Several, phloem inhibiting bacteria, they cause these type of symptoms, and they suppress the translocation of uh, photosynthetic material. And they also uh, promote the wasteful use of the products of photosynthesis in the form of gall. Now, these are the basic terms how we can define the disease triangle. That disease triangle means when there is an involvement of the host, pathogen, and environment, and as a result of the interaction between host, pathogen, and environment, the symptoms appear on the plants. And all these three factors, they related with each other, and they influence on the disease. And when we talk about the disease tetrahedron, it means that a part of environment, host, and pathogens, the human activity time is also involved during the development of the disease. Then how this plant disease, which are caused by the microorganisms, have importance uh, related to human being, because they damage plants and plant products on which the human being depend for food, clothing, furniture, etc. So millions of people in the world, they depend on the plant produce, and once the diseases they affect the plants uh, produce, it automatically it affects the uh, you know the produce and the quality and quantity of the produce. Then there may be the occurrence, prevalence, the severity, then the spread of the plant diseases is vary from season to season. Then the presence of the pathogen, environmental conditions, what are the varieties which are grown, where these varieties are susceptible or resistant, or sometimes some of the varieties which are uh, uh, very prone to a particular disease, and during the outbreak of the diseases of on the plants, these varieties play an important role. So if there is a resistant variety, there may be uh, less epidemic of any disease. If the varieties are susceptible, the outbreak of disease or the epidemic of disease may be more. So how we can justify that the role of diseases? And if you see the history, history means way back in uh, uh, before Christ and after death of the Christ, AD and BC. So there were several reports that the people, when they were not knowing about the science and the causes of the plant disease and insects too. So at that time also they, uh, you know, uh, they prayed to the god to save their crops. And then later on, when the discoveries took place of various diseases caused by different forms of microorganisms between 16th to 19th century, then the significance of the disease uh, accumulated, and uh, it has got more importance. Now, if you see the annual losses worldwide uh, by the different factors, where the insects and weeds and diseases and several losses by several causes are there. And if you see that disease alone causes 14.1% losses. And you know, the important disease like rust, mildews, blights, these diseases were impacted the human being a lot. There were several famines recorded in the past due to these diseases, and these diseases did also affect the socio-economic conditions of the particular region or the particular country or the particular nation. And there were several reports are also. So disease, how the disease are important with related to financial loss. Financial loss means the disease may also increase the cost of cultivation of the farmers. If the disease occurs, the farmers they they pay more money for plant protection measures, and that increases the cost of cultivation. Then the diseases may also cause the hunger and starvation, and there were several reports of the hunger and starvation due to this disease, and even some of the diseases also uh, caused the sudden increase in the price of the products uh, which are reaching to the consumer. And sometimes uh, the disease may also be harmful to the human being and plants when they eat the uh, uh, affected parts of the plant, like argata bajra is the suitable example, a best example, when the seeds of bajra affected with argot is being consumed by the animal or the human being, the paralysis occurs. So this is a perfect example. And also, the diseases they destroy the beauty of environment by damaging the ornamental plants which are in there in the parks or in the roadside or the and the streets. And also when the farmers use the pesticides for the control of diseases, ultimately what they do, they pollute the water and environment of that particular region. There are several outbreaks of the diseases which caused the greater impact on socioeconomic conditions. The first disease of importance of late blight of potato, uh, which appeared in Ireland during in 1845 to 60, and it caused a significant loss. So likewise, there are several diseases like from powdery mildew of grape, downy mildew of grape, then coffee rust, Vizerum wilt, and like to Sigatoka leaf spot and Panama disease of banana. And these serious diseases led to the famines. Irish famine is well known by the late blight of potato, where uh, millions hectares of potato field were destroyed by this late blight pathogen, and it caused the Irish famine. And likewise, the Bengal famine, where the brown spot of rice caused uh, famine on the rice, and then coffee rust in Sri Lanka. It declined the Sri Lankan economy, and the wheat rust uh, caused by Paxinagram stratici in 1940 in USA. It also caused a significant loss to the crop, and these diseases are still uh, causing continuously the damage to the crops, causing economical losses in different parts of the world where these crops are being grown, and where we can also put the examples. Then the significance of the late blight of potato, where we can write that the reduction of the 1 million population died due to starvation or famine. Then 1.5 million migrated to United States and other parts of the country. So this was the impact of lead blight, and it also uh, it had a great and significant effect on economic, political, and cultural development in Europe and other United States. Even some people, mentioned that during World War I, lead blight damage to the potato crop in Germany may have helped the end of the war. Likewise, the powdery mildew occurred in the severe form in France on grape vine, and then in 1854, this powdery mildew became epidemic, and we reduced the grape crop by 80%. And this led to the shortage of the wine, and then increase of the price of the wine in France. Likewise, then again, the downy mildew was in epidemic form in the same country, France, and it was in epidemic, and due to this downy mildew disease, there was shutdown of the wine industries due to lack of raw material, and Professor Millardet, he could able to find out the solution for the control of this disease, and he discovered a mixture of copper sulfate and lime, which is still in use even after 50 years, 150 years, still it is in use, and it is in the form of Bodax mixture. Then several other diseases are there, and then in Sri Lanka in 1867 to 1869, the coffee rust disease was responsible for destruction of coffee crop. And there was 90% loss in coffee yield of the country, and the Sri Lanka, which was the number one exporter of the coffee in the world, lost its position, and the economy of the Sri Lanka was greatly affected. In Panama disease of banana, similarly, uh, uh, in 1876, it was discovered from the Australia, and then the disease is spread uh, in a different, even different countries. And in 1925, it reached to the Western Hemisphere, and it caused significant loss in banana export. So there are several, steps of this Panama disease or Panama wilt of banana. And in 1950, the companies were forced to change the varieties, and introduction of resistant varieties taken place. Likewise, in the coffee rust, uh, these are the several examples which you can uh, write and you can give with the examples. Even for the bacterial blight of rice, it is one of the most destructive disease of rice, and it was first found in Japan in 1884, and then it the disease it caused the yield loss up to 50%, and this disease, you know, it started from the Asian, from the Japan, and it spread to almost all rice growing countries of the world, and uh, in uh, 1940, 100,000 hectares of the rice area was affected with this disease. Then similarly, if we talk about the citrus canker, the disease came in USA in 1903, and there was loss of 350 lakhs US dollar due to collapse of several citrus orchards. But we can also put in that, giving to the importance of the disease in India during 1918 and 19, 80% loss was recorded due to attack of brown spot of rice, and which led in 1952 to famous Bengal famine. Uh, and then in 1938 and 39, the red rot of sugarcane, it appeared in the epidemic form in North India, and due to this disease, several sugarcane factories were shut down. And similarly, in the wheat rust, it appeared in epidemic form in different years, right from 1946-47. And the black rust of wheat, it appeared in north, central, and southern part of India, and then it caused lost up to 20 lakhs ton wheat grains. Then again, the disease became epidemic in Bihar, and it caused heavy losses. So there are several, we can quote the examples, and due to attack of this disease, due to attack of this rust disease, uh, the government of India started a wheat, all India coordinated wheat project, and where you know uh, several centers were developed, and so in this way, and the wheat varieties, it was mandatory to develop the resistant varieties which should be resistant to the wheat rust. So we can quote the several examples of like this. Then again, some of the you can quote the significance of the disease, like quoting the different forms of the symptoms, how the diseases reduce the quantity and quality of the plant produce. Here is the picture of citrus canker. So there may be uh, there may be limit the kind of plants that can grow in large geographical area, and here you can see the examples that how the ergot affected, uh, and it caused the paralysis in the cattle. You can see the picture, and ergot contain a number of alkaloids, or sometimes the financial losses in the terms of purchase of pesticides, chemicals, labors, and all these things. So this is about all about this.